Yo, what's up? Let's talk about something that is quite important. So, we're going to talk about the dopamine effect when it comes to trading. So, you may be working really, really hard, focusing on getting your back testing done and your forward testing, and you find success and you may get your first payout. And then what happens is the slippery slope to performance starts. And that's where you just find yourself slipping away from your edge. And then over time, you start to see cracks in your performance. And before you know it, you've blown through a whole chunk of change. And this is a huge, big problem in the trading community. Now, the key part is that in order to be able to produce a consistent income, you're going to have to be able to get over this phenomena. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to have success and then you're going to have crashes in your performance. And these videos are good because it's not just me educating you, it's a good reference point for myself to also go back and have a record of this. So it's beneficial for me as well. And that's why I like creating these videos. So you have to become aware of your own tendencies to fall into mediocrity. And when you do that, you're going to start to see some really interesting things. For example, have you ever had a good run of performance? I bet you have. It happens with traders. And then, once you've seen that you've made some money, and like I said, you may have got a payout, you just find yourself doing things that you know better than to do. And yet you keep doing them over and over again. So what essentially I like to call this is performance erosion. Okay? Which is where you start drifting from your ideal patterns and ways of doing things. And slowly what happens is that your performance starts to suffer. And here's the thing that is very, very important to understand. The most dangerous time for a trader, or really anyone who's managing risk, is when you are winning. See, because when you're winning, there are these powerful things that happen in your brain. And then what happens is that you can't even see it happening. It's so seductive. You'll start creating alibis, reasons to do certain things, which are completely against your plan, and yet you'll do them anyway. And then when you look back in hindsight, from your armchair position in review, you say, what on earth did I just do? How could I be so stupid? Yeah, exactly. You fell into the dopamine cycle. And that's the huge big problem with traders, is they find it really, really hard to stop after a good winning period. The good traders know when to leave. So they've made their money and they know when to leave. Whereas the losing traders, they may have some success and then they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And they fall into all the harmful vices of overtrading, of impulsive trading. And before you know it, they've blown their account. And that's the way that it happens. So it's a dopamine cycle. And what happens in the brain is that after winning, you want that reward again. You want that reward again. And then what that causes is for you to start chasing setups. So you'll make reasons to get into trades that don't even fit your plan. So that is the way the performance crashes happen. The most dangerous time is when you're winning. And most traders, they don't even think about that until it's too late and they've slid right off the cliff. They've lost all their profits. They've blown another account. And then they've got to go back there and they've got to fund their account again and start from scratch because they fell into the dopamine trap. So what do you do after a winning period? Be cautious and be very, very cautious, because that slippery slope is almost programmed into our DNA. It's natural to feel good after a winning period. You make some money, you get a payout, you feel good. And yet that is the very problem that is preventing you from getting to the next level. Okay? And it creates an addiction cycle. Many, many traders fall into the addiction. And they find it almost impossible to resist jumping into the next trade. Now, let's get a bit of perspective here. A professional trader does not fall into those harmful vices of impulsive trading, overtrading, and revenge trading, because a professional trader has mastered the emotional discipline aspect. They take very, very good positions. And then they move on to their next trade with a plan. So it's a planned session that they're going into. They're not just rushing in and gambling. They're going in there with a very, very precise plan. And they're executing that edge again. And then they are managing risk from an effective point of view. Whereas the unprofitable trader, the impulsive trader, the gambling type trader wins some money and immediately jumps into the market thinking that they're going to make more and more and more. Okay, so it's a huge, huge, big distinction between the gambling type of trader and the professional trader. Okay, they're two different types of traders. And sometimes the hardest part of trading is not trading. And you'll know that if you're a trader. It's not an easy thing to master. When you've got 24/5 access to the financial markets and you're just a mouse click away from placing that order, it's very, very difficult sometimes for traders to stop themselves from doing that. But yet, less is more. Less is more. So the traders who are, and you've probably seen a lot of these people. They come online, they do their videos, they show their charting, and they're taking 5-6 trades in a session. They're making money and losing. They're going through all the emotions that a typical gambler goes through. Professionals don't go through that. Professionals have a systematic way of executing their plan, and they have a very effective way of blocking out emotion from their trades or their trading decisions. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this one, and take care. See you soon.